My father, Bob Davis, was more than just a long-haul truck driver. In the late 1970s, he was a symbol of rugged determination on the open road, a man who took pride in his 18-wheeler, known affectionately as Big Blue. With its gleaming chrome and powerful engine, Big Blue was not just a truck. It was my dad's sanctuary, his mobile home, and a vital companion on countless journeys. I remember him telling me about one crisp autumn night when he rolled into a bustling truck stop just off I-40 in Oklahoma. The sun had set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, and the neon lights of the diner flickered to life, welcoming weary travelers. Fresh coffee and the scent of fries filled the air, and as my dad parked Big Blue and climbed out, he stretched his legs, relishing the freedom of the moment. He always loved swapping stories with fellow truckers, and that night was no different. They gathered around booths, sharing tall tales of their adventures on the highway, each man as tough as the trucks they drove. My dad grabbed his usual, black coffee and a slice of pie topped with a scoop of vanilla ice cream, before settling in to share a laugh with his friends. Later, as the clock ticked closer to midnight, his instincts kicked in. He excused himself. That's when he saw him, a scruffy-looking man, shrouded in shadows, trying to pry open the door of Big Blue. My dad's heart raced, adrenaline surging as he shouted, "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" The thief startled, glancing back at my dad. Without another thought, my father sprinted towards his truck. The guy suddenly took out a knife and pointed it at my dad and then cut him. My dad was in shock, but in the heat of the moment he punched the guy, and the guy fell and gave my dad time to process everything. As my dad screamed in pain, the man suddenly got up and ran to the nearby woods. But my dad was determined. He hopped into Big Blue, starting the engine. He wasn't going to chase him down like in those action movies, but the sight of the massive truck bearing down was enough to keep the man running. My dad kept pace, navigating through the lot with precision, his only thoughts focused on stopping this intruder who dared to threaten what he loved most. Eventually, as the man stumbled, fear etched across his face, my dad decided to end the wild chase. He stopped the truck and stepped down, looking more imposing than ever. To my dad's surprise, the thief hesitated, hands raised in surrender, before trudging back. My dad never looked away, maintaining an unwavering stare until the truck stop manager, Frank, came rushing out, ready to assist. Once they had the man cornered, my dad calmly explained the situation to Frank and called the police, his voice steady despite the adrenaline still pulsing through him. When the officers arrived, they took control of the situation, efficiently placing the would-be thief in custody. As they turned to my dad, one officer couldn't help but chuckle and asked, "Did he get anything out of it?" My dad smiled, shaking his head. "Nah, just my nerves. And maybe a slice of that pie I left behind." I had been dating Hunter for 2 months and everything felt perfect. He was sweet, charming, and I couldn't help but smile every time I thought about him. He was a truck driver, and I loved hearing his stories about the open road. But one night, everything changed. I wanted to surprise him for his 5-year anniversary as a truck driver. I thought it would be sweet to decorate his truck while he was asleep. I snuck into the lot, heart racing with excitement and a hint of nerves. Inside, I started putting up little decorations. While looking for a good spot, I stumbled upon a hidden compartment. Curious, I opened it. What I saw made my heart stop. It was a stack of books, sketchbooks filled with drawings and notes. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. The drawings were horrifying. They showed scenes of violence, women being hurt, and one sketch looked just like me. I was stunned, my breath caught in my throat. A drawing showed a blonde girl getting stabbed, and another had me, well, it showed something much worse. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It felt like I was staring into the mind of a monster. My heart raced as I pulled myself together. I knew I had to get out of there. I left the truck and stumbled back to my car, my hands shaking. I drove home, tears streaming down my face, thinking about how I had almost fallen for a man who had such dark thoughts. I changed my number and sent him a text. "It's over." I felt sick, scared, and disgusted. I could almost hear him trying to explain himself, begging me to understand, but I just couldn't. The man I thought I knew was a stranger, and I couldn't shake the fear that lingered in my mind. I was free, but the thoughts of what I had discovered would haunt me forever. I've been a truck driver for over 15 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. But one night sticks in my mind. It started like any other trip. I was cruising down a lonely stretch of highway when I realized I was lost. My heart sank when I looked at the gas gauge, almost empty. I pulled over to the side of the road, hoping to get a signal on my phone. I walked around, waving my phone in the air like an idiot, but nothing. After 10 minutes of searching, I finally got one bar. I felt a rush of relief. I quickly checked for a gas station and saw one was only a few miles ahead. But then I heard it. A sound that didn't belong in the quiet of night. It was an eerie mix of animal noises and what sounded like a human yelling, but deeper. My skin prickled with fear. I stood frozen, the hairs on my neck standing up. Then I heard a loud thud, like something heavy hitting wood. My heart raced. What could that be? I thought about Bigfoot, but that was just a legend, right? I shook my head, trying to clear my mind. I switched on my phone's flashlight and pointed it toward the sound. For a brief moment, I saw it. A massive creature, like a bear but standing upright, hairy and tall. It looked at me with dark, deep-set eyes and my blood turned cold. It turned and moved deeper into the woods. In that instant, I ran back to my truck, adrenaline pumping through my veins. I started the engine and began recording the map on my phone, just in case I lost signal again. I didn't stop until I was far away from that place, the strange sounds fading into the distance. I didn't check my gas level again. I didn't care. I just wanted to get home, safe and sound, far away from whatever was out there in the dark. I've been driving a truck for 15 years, and in that time, I've seen things that would make most people tremble. But one night, something happened that still haunts me. It was a regular route, dark and quiet, the kind of night when the world feels empty. I pulled into a truck stop, needing to stretch my legs and grab a coffee. As I walked towards the bathroom, the smell hit me, a thick, putrid scent that curled my stomach. I stepped inside, and that's when I saw it. A dead deer lay sprawled on the ground, its body twisted in a way that felt wrong. At first, I thought it was just a nasty accident, but as I got closer, I froze. There was a man hunched over the deer, tearing into it with his bare hands, blood covering his face. He looked wild, like he hadn't seen a shower in weeks. I stood there for a moment, my heart racing. Was this guy on drugs? I couldn't process it. All I knew was that my instincts screamed for me to get out. I turned and bolted back through the door, but I could hear his footsteps behind me, frantic and unforgiving. My truck was parked a few feet away, and I thought surely I'd be safe there. I fumbled with my keys. The banging on the door came next, hard and desperate. "Let me in!" the man shouted. I could barely breathe. I dialed 911 with my heart pounding in my chest, but I didn't take my eyes off the door. "Please, I need help," I whispered to the operator. "There's a crazy man at the truck stop. He's eating a deer." I could hear the sirens in the distance, but I was too scared to leave my truck. Finally, I saw flashing lights and felt a spark of hope. But just as I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, the door rattled again. I felt sick, knowing he was still out there. The police arrived, and I slowly got out to speak to them, but I couldn't go back to the scene. I told them everything, my voice barely a whisper. I didn't want to see that man again. As they moved towards the bathroom, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. But still, I couldn't shake the image from my mind, the raw look in that man's eyes, the horror I'd witnessed. That night changed me, a reminder of how dark the world could really be. I drove away from that truck stop, trying to push the memory aside, but somehow it lingers still, a haunting reminder of a common night turned terrifying.